Hey guys, we're working our way through the Unit 3 Review Home Connection. It is page 65 and 66. Go ahead, put your name and number at the top if you haven't, so you get credit for your hard work. All right, let's go to number 1. Find and label the location of these numbers on the number line. It's okay to add more marks to the line if you need to. So the first thing I always do is I look to see where our starting and end points are. So we have 0 and 2. Halfway in between, they've marked a 1. I'm going to add some other marks on this number line to help me get a better idea of where things should be located. So if I just look from 0 to 1, I know that halfway should be 0.5. So halfway is right here. So I'm going to mark it 0.5 just to help me out. Same with over here. I'm going to mark halfway with 1.5. Gives me a better idea of where to put things on the line. Now let's go through and let's mark these spots on the line. Okay, so I'm going to start with, let's go with 0.58 or 0 and 58 hundredths, because that's going to come right after 0.5. So I'm just going to mark it like this, and up at the top, I'm going to label it 0 and 58 hundredths. Next one, 0.2 is going to be really easy. Here's 0.1, here's 0.2. So I'm going to mark it 0 and 2 tenths. Super easy. Let's go with the next one. How about 1 and 95 hundredths? That's really, really close to 2. So I'm going to put it right over here, and I'm going to write 1 and 95 hundredths. 1.4 is going to be really easy because this is 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, or 1 and 4 tenths. 0 and 75 hundredths. Well, if this is 0 and 5 tenths, 0 and 6 tenths, 0 and 7 tenths, 0 and 8 tenths, I know it's going to come right in between those two. So I'm going to mark that one. And 1 and 25 hundredths. This is 1 and 1 tenth, 1 and 2 tenths, 1 and 3 tenths. It's going to be between 1 and 2 tenths and 1 and 3 tenths. There we go. All right, number 2 says use the symbols greater than, equal to, and less than to compare each of the decimal numbers. Remember, always start with the numbers over here, and you'll notice that they're all the same, so then you start with the next number and start comparing. Go ahead and pause the video so that you can do number 2. Press play when you're all done with number 2. Great work. Let's go on to number 3. When the odometer of a car reads 35,467 and 219 thousandths, the 5 stands for 5 times 1,000 miles, okay, because it's in the thousandths place. Use expanded form to show what each of the other digits in the odometer reading means. So the 3 in this number, let's underline the 3 digit, means it's going to mean 3 times whatever place it's in. What place is it in? It's in the 10,000ths place, so it's 3 times 10,000, which would equal 30,000. The 4 means 4 times, what place is it in? 100. It's in the hundreds place. The 6 means 6 times, what place is that in? Good, it's in the tens place. The 7 means 7 times, what place is it in? The ones place. The 2, here's the 2, means 2 times, what place is it in? The tenths place. The 1 means 1 times, what place is it in? The hundredths place. And the 9 means 9 times, what place is it in? the thousandths place. Whoops. Should be a 1. Sorry, the thousandths place. Moving on to number 4. This whole grid is worth 1. Write at least 3 different fractions and 3 different decimal numbers to name the part that is shaded. So if this whole thing is worth 1, how many little squares are shaded in? 80 out of how many total little squares are there? 100. And how would I show that as a decimal? How do I show 80 100ths? 0.80. Okay. All right. How many strips are shaded in, or how many groups of 10? 8 tenths. 8 out of 10 are shaded in. And how would I write that as a decimal? 0.8. Good. Now, another common way we did a while back is we kind of divided it like this when we were thinking of money. So, how many groups do I have shaded? 4 out of how many groups? 5 total. Okay. What would be, so there I have my 3 different fractions. What could be another decimal number I could write? Remember, when I'm writing decimal numbers, I can add zeros on at the end, and it's the exact same amount. So it's the same as 800 thousandths. Flip your paper over to the back. Number 5. Here is a chart showing the amount of rain that fell in Bookersville over the last 4 days. Here's the amount of rain each day. Bookerville had a record of 12 inches of rain in 5 days. How much will it have to rain on Friday to beat the record by 1/10 of an inch? Show all of your work below. So first we need to add up. We need to add up all of these amounts to see how much it rained in total. Let's add up Monday and Tuesday first, and then Wednesday and Thursday. So 1 and 35 hundredths plus 2 and 50 hundredths. I'm going to go ahead and add them together. I think this will be a pretty easy one to do traditional. 5 plus 0 is 5. 3 plus 5 is 8. Bring down my decimal point. 1 plus 2 is 3. So these two had 3 and 85 hundredths. Then over here, let's do 3 and 6 hundredths plus 2 and 49 hundredths. Let's do a little give and take strategy, because I think I can make this go to something with all zeros pretty easy. And since I'm adding, I'm going to use the give and take strategy. So I'm going to take away 0 and 6 hundredths, and I'm going to add 0 and 6 hundredths here to rewrite my number as 3.00. And if I add 6 hundredths here, I have 2 and 55 hundredths. Add them together, really easy to see. 5 and 55 hundredths. So that's how much rain fell on Wednesday and Thursday. How do I figure out how much rain fell all days all together? I have to add these two numbers together. So I'm going to go ahead and add these numbers together. 5 plus 5 is 10. Put my 1 up here, my 0 down there. 8 plus 5 is 13, plus 1 more is 14. Put my 1 here and my 4 here. Bring down my decimal point. 3 plus 5 is 8, plus 1 more is 9. So that's how much rain fell in 4 days. Okay, now we need to know that if Bowerville had a record of 12 inches of rain, 12 inches, how much more would it need? When we're talking about the words how much more, we're going to have to do some subtracting. So we need to do 12 minus 9.4, 9.40. Now notice how I'm going to line these up. I'm going to do 12.0 minus 9.4. I'm going to subtract. Okay. Now, since I'm subtracting, I'm going to do a little bit of constant difference work. I want my second number to have a 0. So constant difference means whatever I do to one number, I'm going to do to the other number. I'm going to subtract 0.4, and I'm going to subtract 0.4 up here. Whatever I do to one, I have to do to the other, which makes my new problem 9.0, and instead of 12, I'm subtracting 4/10, so it's going to be 11.6. Now I'm going to do some subtracting. 6 minus 0 is 6. 1 minus 9 I can't do, but I can do 11 minus 9, which is 2. Okay. So this is how many more inches of rain they need to beat the record of 12 inches. However, here's the tricky part of the question. It wants to beat the record by 1/10. So I have to take this answer and I have to add 1/10. 2.6 plus 1/10 is 2.7, and let's label it inches. Tricky questioning. Lots of steps for that problem. Number 6. Mr. Mugwump, love that name, is still confused about fractions. Use numbers, words, or labeled sketches to show him why 1/2 plus 1/3 does not equal 2/5. Okay, so what could we say about this? We know that when we add 1/2 plus 1/3, that we can't just add it straight across, which is what Mr. Mugwump did. He said 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 3 is 5, there, I'm done. We know you can't do that. What do we have to do? We have to find a common denominator. So, what's a number that works both with a 2 and a 3? A 6 does. So I'm going to change 1/2 into something with a 6, and I'm going to change 1/3 into something with a 6 as my common denominator. So 2 times what gets me to 6? 3. So I take the top times 3. 1 times 3 is 3. And 1/3. 3 times what equals 6? 2. So I have to take the top times 2. Now I have two fractions that I can use. I can write 3/6 plus 2/6 equals 5/6, which is not 2/5. So we can write Mr. Mugwump, love that name. I like writing it and I like saying it. Mr. Mugwump did not find a common denominator. The answer should be 5/6. All right, guys, put your name on it. Please, if you have any questions, ask me tomorrow before you turn it in. Thanks.